Rain hammered the restaurant windows as the manager slammed a folder onto the counter. "You're fired, Daniel." Effective immediately. Daniel stood frozen, his soaked jacket dripping onto the floor. His hands tightened around the folder. Inside were the papers accusing him of stealing thousands of dollars from the restaurant. He knew he was innocent, but no one wanted to listen. Then his phone buzzed. A message from his daughter lit the screen. "Dad, are we still going to eat tonight?" Daniel swallowed hard. He had only $20 left. He walked into the cold night, carrying the weight of a broken reputation and a hungry child waiting at home. Across the street, beneath the weak glow of a street lamp, an elderly woman sat alone on a bench. Her clothes were thin, her hands trembling, and her eyes fixed on the warm lights of the restaurant. Daniel stopped. He could have walked away. Instead, he looked at the sandwich in his hand. Then, at the woman. "Ma'am," he said softly, "are you hungry?" She looked up, and neither of them knew that this simple question was about to change Daniel's life forever. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and leave a comment telling us what you would have done in Daniel's place. Your support helps us share more stories about kindness, hope, and the unexpected ways one good deed can change a life. Daniel opened a paper bag he had bought with almost all the money in his pocket. Inside was a chicken sandwich and a small bottle of water. He had planned to take it home for his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, but the elderly woman looked exhausted. "Please," Daniel said, handing her the food. "You need it more than I do." The woman stared at him. "You're giving this to me?" Daniel smiled weakly. "It's just a sandwich." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't know me." "No," Daniel replied, "but I know what it feels like to be hungry." She slowly accepted the food. Daniel sat beside her while she ate. He did not ask her name. He did not ask for anything in return. He simply stayed. After a few minutes, the woman whispered, "You look like someone who has had a terrible day." Daniel gave a quiet laugh. "That obvious?" She nodded. So Daniel told her what had happened. He explained that he had been fired because someone had accused him of stealing money from the restaurant. He had worked there for nearly 6 years and had never taken a penny that wasn't his. "What will you do now?" she asked. Daniel looked down. "I have a daughter. I'll figure something out." The woman studied his face carefully. "You still gave me your food." Daniel shrugged. "My daughter would want me to help you." The woman smiled. "What is her name?" "Emma." "Then Emma must be very proud of you." Daniel looked away, fighting tears. That night, he went home and told Emma they would have to share what little food remained in the kitchen. He did not tell her that he had given away his dinner. The next morning, Daniel woke up to loud knocking. 2 police officers stood outside his apartment. His heart dropped. They told him they needed to ask questions about the restaurant theft. Daniel knew things were getting worse, but before he could say anything, another car pulled up. A black luxury sedan stopped at the curb. A sharply dressed man stepped out and walked toward Daniel. "Are you Daniel Miller?" "Yes, I need you to come with me." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Why?" The man looked at him seriously. "Because my employer wants to speak with you." Daniel followed him to the car, confused and frightened. Minutes later, he arrived at a massive private office downtown. And there, sitting behind a long glass desk, was the elderly woman from the bench. Daniel stopped walking. She smiled. "My name is Margaret Whitmore." Daniel stared at her. He had no idea that Margaret was one of the wealthiest women in the country, a billionaire who owned several companies, including the restaurant chain where Daniel had worked. "I don't understand," Daniel whispered. Margaret leaned forward. "Last night you told me you were innocent." "I am. I believe you." She placed a thick file on the desk. "I had my security team investigate the theft." Daniel opened the file. Inside were financial records, security reports, and copies of messages. His eyes widened. The money had not been stolen by him. The restaurant's regional manager had created false records and secretly moved the money into another account. Daniel had been blamed because he had discovered irregularities and threatened to report them. Margaret had learned the truth. But there was something else. "You were the only employee who noticed the missing money. She said they fired you to keep you quiet." Daniel's hands trembled. "So my name can be cleared." Margaret nodded today. Daniel lowered his head, overwhelmed. "I don't know how to thank you." Margaret smiled. "You already did." She pointed toward the photograph of herself sitting on the bench. "When everyone else saw an old woman sitting alone in the rain, you saw someone who was hungry." Daniel remembered the sandwich. That wasn't anything special. Margaret shook her head. It was everything. She cleared Daniel's name publicly, exposed the manager responsible for the theft, and offered Daniel a new position overseeing employee welfare across her restaurant company. But Daniel asked for something else. "Could you help me make sure employees who lose their jobs unfairly have someone to speak for them?" Margaret smiled. "That is exactly the kind of person I hoped you would become." Months later, Daniel was no longer struggling to keep food on the table. He had a stable job, a safe home, and a brighter future for Emma. But he never forgot the elderly woman on the bench, and neither did Margaret. Whenever Daniel passed someone struggling on the street, he remembered that rainy evening. He understood something he had once overlooked. Kindness does not always come back in the form of money, success, or a miracle. Sometimes it comes back as hope. Sometimes it comes back as a second chance. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness can reach someone at the exact moment they need it most. Daniel thought he had only given away a sandwich. In reality, He had given someone dignity when the world had made her feel invisible, and that simple act helped change his own life. So the next time you see someone who needs help, remember Daniel. You may never know their story, you may never know what they are carrying, and you may never know how your kindness will return. But one thing is certain, kindness is never wasted. A small gesture, a warm meal, a helping hand, or even a few minutes spent listening can mean more than you realize. Because sometimes when you choose to be kind to someone else, you are also giving yourself a chance to discover the best version of who you can be. So keep helping, keep caring, and whenever you can, choose kindness. You never know whose life you might change, or how beautifully that kindness might change yours.